Welcome to another episode of Girl Talk, where we have open conversations about STIs and HIV for teenagers. I am your host, Uchechi Uchenna, also known as Debbie7, and with me in the studio today is Mr. Ikechukwu Malvin.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Ike.
Thank you.
Yes, and today we are going to be talking about consensual relationships. You're excited because we are bringing a lot, to you today. So, Mr. Ike, I'm happy you're here today, and I feel like it's nice because, the discussion is between a female host and, of course, a male, guest.
Yeah.
So, what do you think it means to set a clear boundary in a relationship?
Okay. In my understanding, when you say boundary, when you say the word boundary, in regards to relationship, I think it means like the term and condition that would lead that relationship. The do's and the don'ts as well. So I think every relationship should have its boundaries. Where you speak about your values and things you do not appreciate. That would or might happen in the relationship.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. It's also important that we note that setting a clear communication boundary in a relationship involves mutual respect. It's no longer respect from one person. It's respect from both parties, mutual respect, trust, and then taking this person to be in your shoe. It's important. How would I feel when you do this to me? If I will feel bad, should I do it to this person or should I not? That's what I understand as setting a clear boundary in a relationship. And it's really important because a lot of teenagers don't really know what boundaries are in a relationship. They don't know what should be done to them, what shouldn't be done to them. They don't even know how to say no when a conversation is actually popped open. I remember a certain time when we went to a school, and then this girl, she has a family, she has guardians, but then they don't talk. So she told me she was feeling different, weird, and then I asked her, okay, what of your parents? Have you spoken to anybody? She said no, because she feels like the next thing they will ask her is she pregnant? And then she feels like there are possibilities of being pregnant, but then she hasn't gotten tested. So I was like, okay, did you get intimate with anybody? And then she started crying at that point. That yes, she did, but it wasn't with her consent, that she was forced, and this person is older than she is. So I asked, okay, what did you do? At this point, it's a forceful thing, so what did you do? She said she didn't know what to do because, she wasn't taught. She just felt like it's an older person. And we have this culture of telling our kids, our young ones, not to, talk down at elders. So what do you think should be done when an elder is actually trying to, get close to you, do things to you that shouldn't be done? It's wrong, but then you feel like when you talk back at this elder, people will say you're disrespecting the elder. So what do you think should really be done in this situation?
Well, speaking from a male perspective, I would say first off, when you're being approached sexually by someone who's way older than you are as a teenager, I think the first thing you should do is to have like a knowledge of what that person wants in terms of knowing what their actions towards you. For instance, you're a young guy who's within the age of 17 or less, and you're being approached by a lady who's way older than you, talking to you like you're supposed to be her boyfriend, So I feel the first thing you should talk about is trying to know the parts where she's coming from, and when I say parts, I mean like what's behind the conversation she's having with you, and where it will lead to. In this part of Africa, I think sexual consent is like a big deal, because majority of our teenagers do not know the meaning of consent. I'll take myself for example. While I was young, much more younger than you'd call a teenager. But I was in my early teenage days, let's just put it that way. I used to have this nanny who used to stay in my house. She was way older than I was at that time. And something crazy happened. So there was this time where she had her room, and I was supposed to go pick up my charger to my phone. Then we used this small Sagem phone. So I went to her room to pick up the charger, and I knocked on the door. She asked me to come in. So when I went in, it happened to be that she was naked, So I tried to leave immediately, but she was like, "No, I should come. What do I want?" I told her I just came to pick up my charger, and knowing that she was naked at that age, I knew what that meant. Yeah. So, but she asked me to come back in. So I came in, and she was like, "Haven't you seen a naked woman before?" I was like, "No, I haven't."
At that age?
Yeah, that's what she asked me. Haven't I seen a naked woman before? I said no. So she asked me to, touch her in places that, I necessarily or wouldn't have the time or the opportunity to touch. So I remember doing things. I was not like she forced me, but she kind of gave me this whole idea that it's fine, that nobody's going to find out. And being at that age, I didn't really know what to do, how to say, okay, no, I can't do, So relating that to the teenagers of today, I feel when you are faced with that kind of, I call it a challenge, the first thing you want to do is to move out regardless, because you never can tell what this what this person has in mind. So that's what I'd recommend. The first thing you should do is to just move out, leave that place, completely. So yeah.
Wow. This story took me on a journey. Well, I'd like to say thank you, because it's not easy to freely share your story just because you want our teenagers to learn, right? It takes a lot. And it's also important for our teenagers to note that we are not really marketing sex for teenagers, because the best thing as a teenager, the best you can do for yourself is abstain. And it has so many benefits. It, takes away the risk of unwanted pregnancies, the risk of STIs, the risk of dropping out of school, the risk of having emotional trauma, damage, and all of those things. So the best thing to still do as a teenager is to abstain from sex. But what happens when you are forced? What happens when, your consent is taken away from you? Now, that is why organizations like Inspire IT is running this kind of project, to let you know what you can do, to let you know that it's important to seek help. It's important to open up to somebody, a professional, an older person. And also, it's also important for parents to create a safe space for open conversations, because we are talking about open conversations. So Mr. Ike, I want to know, did you get to talk to anybody, your parents or something? What happened?
Sadly, I didn't talk to anyone at that time, because I didn't have this sort of exposure that the teenagers of now have. But what I did at that time was to keep it to myself, which would be considered wrong at times like this now. So I didn't do anything basically until I started to grow up, to get more awareness, on sexual education, and it's only up until recently I started opening up. And sadly, I'm sure there are a lot of guys out there as well that might have had the same experience. It's always advisable you open up on time, because it usually has a toll on your mental health. It leads you into all sort of things. So my advice is for younger guys, like teenagers, teenage boys, to speak out and share these experiences. The earlier, the better.
Exactly. And not just for teenage boys, teenage girls as well. In fact, teenagers generally, it's important to learn to open up. You see, it's not your fault that something of this nature happened to you, but it's going to be your fault if you bottle it up into yourself and, have traumas that never heal. Because it's not just about you, it's about the people who get affected by your trauma. It's about the people you affect. It's about the people who love you. And it's also important, like I would always preach, parents, create a safe space where your child can talk to you, where they can share things. You know, for Mr. Ike, he didn't get to talk about it to anybody, but I'm sure that our children want to. I'm sure you wanted to talk at that
Of
time.
course.
If somebody had given
I just
you
didn't have anyone
exactly,
to speak to.
and you know, it's also important that we learn to judge less, because some of the times I know a girl, she tried to open up. I told her, okay, let's bring your parents into this case.
Yes.
And she was like, no, they are going to beat me up. Can you imagine? It's important that you learn to not blame them, because at first you did not educate them, so it's not their fault, right? And it's also important that as a teenager, you learn when a person is crossing the boundaries. Tell yourself, this is what I want, and learn to communicate it with respect. Okay, it's important to do it with respect, mutual respect from, you know, both people. And if you notice that a person is actually bridging, you know, getting into your space without your consent, the best thing is to leave the environment. That's the best you can do. Leave the environment, find a safe space. Remember, it's not your fault that any of these things happen to you, but it's going to be your fault if you do not do anything about it. Thank you to Inspire IT for letting us use your podcast studio. Of course, you can listen to more podcasts on Spotify. You can watch on YouTube, follow on Facebook. You can also go to www.inspireitpodcast.com to know more about Inspire IT. Big thank you to Africa Reach for supporting this project. Thank you, Mr. Ike. I had the best conversation time. I remain your host, Uchechi Uchenna, also known as Debbie 7, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.